Okay, let's start off here with e4. We're playing Zerona, Algeria. French defense. Ah, looks like a normal French defense. Nothing weird so far. So you can play the win hour or the classical, or you can play this one. I think it's possible to win a pawn here, but it's not as bad as it seems. Let's see. So you take here first. Or maybe black has a way of getting the pawn. I mean, I end up a pawn up in a lot of these cases because of the way that black plays it. But I think, yeah, there's this trick. Yeah, so black is not supposed to lose a pawn there, but in practice he often does. That's been my experience. People play that without knowing. So what are the tricks here? I can play knight to e4, defending the pawn. Where are the checks? There's a check. There's no check. There's a pin. Yeah, I guess that's the problem. So I play knight e4. He pins it. I have to, if I try to defend it with a bishop, he will play pawn to f5 immediately attacking it. So I have to defend with the queen, which also unpins. I'm going to try and hold on to that pawn. See if it causes any consternation to black here. He just takes it. So is there a trick this way? So I take the bishop, and then he's got the check, and then he takes my knight. Well, he's left with this weird pawn here. Yeah, so let's go for that. And I get the bishop. So I think this is okay. I get my pieces out, have a regular pawn structure. His only piece developed is the queen. I'm going to develop my bishop and castle. So I think, it's an opening that's just not that great. Not that great at all. Let's go ahead and unpin the knight and on the castle. He's going to castle too. It's interesting that he played knight to e7 instead of knight to f6, which seems like a more normal move. I guess he's going to he's going to d5 there, so that maybe he keeps pressure on these squares. I don't know. I am going to go ahead and castle here anyway. Oh, he's going to pause and think. I was noticing that I'd used up a minute and a half, and he'd used up 0 time. He'd still had 8 minutes on his clock. But in spite of playing quickly, like this was a standard kind of opening. It's a bizarre opening. Maybe he knows it pretty well, but I don't think this is a particularly good position for black. I'm going to kick the bishop, and if he trades, then I get a good square for my bishop looking at this diagonal here. Now, I should try and find some way to put pressure on or harass the queen. I was thinking just queen to e1. I could play bishop to b4. I could get the same effect, but queen e1 leaves the c-pawn hanging. I was thinking about rook c1, defending that and setting that up, but I could also just play a3, preparing bishop to b4, kick that queen back, and put some pressure on this pawn. Just want to develop this bishop with tempo. Yeah, so he goes there. So how would this go? If I play there anyway, bishop b4, knight takes, pawn takes, queen takes, and I take here, and he takes one of these pawns, takes the b pawn, I guess. Okay, so rook to c1 it is then. Yeah, I was going to say I could just play c3 there. He can't push because I can take it, but now he can push with the with his rook there. So what's the best thing to do? I think I should settle the situation with this bishop here, and I can park my knight on the d3 square there, blocking that pawn until I'm ready to come out and attack it. See, that's defended. There, hit his queen. So I gave up the bishop pair. Probably not for sufficient compensation here. Let's see. So he's bringing his queen over to the king side. Makes some sense. So I can look at these dark squares. I have that one covered. What I'd like to activate my queen a little more here. But maybe if I start with c3, just get rid of this annoying pawn here that is taking up. Ah, that's a mistake, isn't it? Now, well, I can take with the rook. I was going to say, unfortunately, I was just noticing the rook and the queen are coordinating on my knight there. I had intended to take with the bishop, but that would leave my knight hanging, so I guess I will take with the rook. Yeah, so he hits my queen, and I have to move to where I can defend the knight, and the only square I can defend it from is here, it seems. I mean, if I had a move that would attack the queen, that would help, but I didn't see it. So we can trade and mess up my pawns, and then take over here. Probably be a pretty even position unless he's got some other trick up his sleeve. But maybe this slight weakness over here will be something that he's playing for. He has the knight pair. I don't have the bishop pair anymore. Yeah, so everything's defended here. So let's just, let's see, that's defended by the knight and the king and the rook. Everything's pretty solid there. I was just wondering, is there a good square for my knight? I could come in here and start harassing his undefended pawns over here. And the good thing about the bishop is it can defend here and attack at the same time. An open board, maybe that's worth something. Yeah, so now he's got a loose knight there. Can drop my knight back and well, threaten some kind of discovery with my bishop. Bishop takes pawn, king takes, rook takes, knight. But at the end of the day, this pawn is hanging. Okay, so right now, though, he's attacking my h-pawn, so I think I will hold on to that. And now he's attacking my knight. So I was going to attack his knight, but he can move a check. So let's bring the knight over here. Ah, but I can't go there. Okay, I have to be a little careful here. Go here with the knight. That hits his rook. And the pawn. And then I can take here and attack on g7 after he moves the rook. I assume he's going to move the rook. Maybe he's just realized he has no good square to move the rook to. Yeah, he goes back there. So I can take here. And that stops him from coming to h6 and ganging up on my h-pawn. And also looks at g7. So he comes there with a fork. Now, let's see. What's the best way to handle this? Can I... yeah, he doesn't have a check here, so I can actually pin that knight. And I will. And he can attack my knight. I can move the knight with check. I can move it here. And then the king will go to the F file. I can drop my knight back here. Then his knight is under attack, but he can take my bishop. So I come back here to attack his knight, right? How does he deal with that? He takes the knight, I take the rook, he takes the rook. Ah, that's lucky. Or I come back here, he takes the knight, I just take back. If he doesn't take the knight, then then I'm taking his knight. So it sort of forces this exchange, straightens out my pawns, he can trade rooks. And I'll have a bishop versus knight and an extra pawn for the endgame. But the idea of taking his rook doesn't work because knight takes, rook takes, he takes here with check even. So I'm just going here. I've got 3 and 2, 3 against 2 on this side. And rooks, and... yeah, I think it's simplest just to defend against the checks that way. I'm going to need to bring my king out, but didn't want to let him get in there with the check. So with pawns on both sides of the board, the rook and pawn endgame is winning for me. Here, let's move my king over to defend these pawns. And bring my rook into the game. And let's see, let's chase his rook away. So I have a check here. I'll probably block. Yeah, it's just a good endgame for me. I should just trade his rook off. He doesn't have to block. He could go back. And my bishop is nicely controlling his knight there. Oh, it goes that way. So I was thinking here. Try and keep him tied up. Keep the king out of the action. I'll start pushing these pawns forward. Aha, so he is going to play his pawn all the way forward. I think I will prevent that. I think that's worth preventing. Well, I didn't want him chasing my bishop away from this good post that it's on. So now I'm attacking his b-pawn. He can't defend it with the rook or the knight. He pushes it forward. I take, he takes, I take, and I'm another pawn up. Okay, so we finally got his knight to move. He's got a check here with his rook. And let's see, what do I have? Well, first let's, should I do that? I could check his king. Could come over here. I mean, what's loose? This pawn is loose, so if I don't defend that pawn, then he will play his rook here with check and then take here. But he can play his rook here with check anyway. And I can't come forward because of the knight, so I have to step back. And then his rook can come in over here. I think this is still okay for me. Let's just put the bishop back over here. Ah, he wasn't going for that. Oh, I thought for sure he was going for the... Okay, let's push his knight back then. Gives my king a little more space too. Okay, I'm down to 1 minute, so I guess I will start speeding up my moves. Hopefully I won't speed up my blunders. Yeah, he takes first. He can play his knight here and attack the pawn, or he can play his knight there and attack the pawn. My plan was just to bring my king forward to defend. Let's see, yeah, what squares does the knight have? I can attack the knight over here. Can't go here. Can't go, can't go here, here, here. He can go there. But, well, he can deliver a check and drive my king away. So I should first push the pawn, I guess. You know, that's he can just take it, huh? Not thinking. Not thinking. And it's getting a little tricky to defend those pawns, though, with his knight over there. But I probably should have been able to. Yep. So let's go forward and attack that knight. Okay. Check. And the king takes, and then bishop here. And I take, and he takes. You know, it's close, but unfortunately his here it is. Well, he can move his rook with check, huh? Let's step forward. I was thinking, you know, I can take the knight and then I can pin the rook against the king, and then I can trade off the bishop for the rook, and then I will have I'll have this pawn, but his king is in a good spot to stop the pawn. But now I can do the same thing, and I can just win the rook at the end, and I will have a winning end game. I'm down to 23 seconds. So that's the threat. Okay. Let's attack that Let's attack that knight then. He goes there with check. Oh, I can't. I cannot reach his... I cannot reach his knight. I'm cut off by the rook. Yeah, you got me cut off here. Okay. Not so easy to block the checks. But I'm walking away from the knight. I don't want to get forked here. On the dark squares, I can safely move, right? Okay, he goes for this endgame. Okay, so we'll keep his king cut off and away from the pawn. Down to 12 seconds. And then we just push this pawn forward. And I just bring my king in. Bring my king in. It's okay if he checks from in front, because I can make progress by moving my king one step forward when he checks again. Or I can move the pawn one step forward. Either way, I can make progress. So nice. Okay, I'm up to 25 seconds. That's good. Okay, so he puts his rook behind. And a classic illustration of how to queen a pawn and win a rook and pawn endgame. Keep the other king cut off. And the rook is already in the ideal position for building a bridge. Okay, so here I'm threatening to queen that pawn. Yeah, I'm already winning here. I already have a queening strategy and he can't stop it. So anyway, even though I gave up a pawn over there for nothing on the right side, on the king side there, I still had this pawn, and there was winning. He might have had ways to hold a draw at certain points. We can check that out in the postmortem. Anyway, see you guys later. Bye.